Commerce Alive Today presents
Jordan Marsh. In 1841, Eben Dyer Jordan left his job at a Boston dry goods store and went into business for himself, laying the foundation for the first Jordan Marsh. 10 years later, Jordan partnered with Boston merchant Benjamin L. Marsh. They began by selling linen, silk, and other dry goods from Europe to wholesale customers in and around the city. As the business grew, it moved from one location to another, and in 1861 Jordan and Marsh decided to begin selling directly to the public. They acquired a brownstone building at 450 Washington Street in the heart of what is still Boston's downtown shopping district. After the American Civil War, Jordan and Marsh expanded into nearby buildings, offering an increasing quantity and variety of goods. Eventually the partners had established the nation's first departmentalized store and called it Jordan Marsh & Company. During the second half of the 19th century, Eben Jordan's son, Jordan Jr., and a new partner named George Midden took over the company, turning it into a modern department store. Jordan Marsh & Company, in addition to establishing the first department store, introduced the concept of department shopping. Jordan Marsh combined an elegant atmosphere with excellent personal service and a wide range of merchandise. With many different departments displaying wares from around the world, the store drew shoppers from the city as well from the growing streetcar suburbs. Once at the store, consumers could do more than just shop. Jordan Marsh offered fashion shows, a bakery famous for its blueberry muffins, art exhibitions, and even afternoon concerts. Jordan Marsh also pioneered new services for shoppers not available in more traditional specialty shops. Most important, it offered credit, usually in the form of charge accounts. It introduced the customer's always right policy and offered money-back guarantees. Jordan Marsh was always known for implementing new technology as well, one of the first stores to feature electrical lights, glass showcases, telephones, and elevators. It also installed pneumatic tubes that delivered cash and credit information to individual departments. In 1935, Boston's Jordan Marsh became one of the founders of New York City-based Allied Stores Corporation, a successor to Hahn Department Stores, Incorporated, a holding company founded in 1928. From the early 1940s until 1972 and again in the early 1990s, the Jordan Marsh flagship store in Boston's downtown crossing was home to the Enchanted Village, a lavish Christmas display which at its height took over an entire floor of the department store and was also spotlighted in its display windows. The centerpiece of the display, besides Santa, was an 8-set Lionel electric train display. From what started as a marketing gimmick, the Enchanted Village quickly became a legendary Boston tradition and an annual mainstay of the city's holiday season. Macy's discontinued the Enchanted Village in 1998. After World War II, the management of Jordan Marsh announced that it would build a new store in downtown Boston. Jordan's 5 older buildings would give way to a new building that would take up a full city block. Covering an area larger than Harvard Stadium, it would have 2 stories underground, another 14 would rise into the air. It would have all the latest technology, including air conditioning, automatic doorways, block-long show windows, and radiant heated sidewalks. After the addition of the new building in 1949, the Jordan Marsh complex was split into 4 distinct units: the 1949 new store, the original main store, annex, and Bristol building. The Boston Redevelopment Authority estimated the complex's total retail space at 1,700,000 square feet, which made it the largest retail venue in Boston. At the same time, the company began moving, along with its customers, into the suburbs. Jordan's constructed its first branched stores in older suburban communities in the 1940s, but by 1966 the branched stores accounted for half of all department store sales. The shopping mall Shoppers World opened in Framingham, Massachusetts on October 4, 1951, making it one of the earliest suburban shopping malls ever in the country. Jordan Marsh stood at the southern end as the sole anchor. It was the first mall-style Jordan Marsh in the country and was unmistakable for its large white dome. The dome was visible from the air and was used on aeronautical charts as a visual reporting point for aircraft approaching Boston's Logan Airport. It was reputed to be the third largest unsupported dome in the world after St. Peter's Basilica in Rome and St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The Shoppers World store quickly became the most recognizable Jordan Marsh outside the flagship store in Boston. In 1956, the first store in Miami, Florida was opened with slogans such as Florida's High Fashion Department Store and the store with a Florida flair. Later, it was divided into a separate division of Allied, then the Jordan Marsh of Boston with headquarters in Miami. With newcomers heading into the state, the store lost focus and decided to downgrade in order to compete. Jordan Marsh also opened a San Diego branch around the same time, occupying the former Sears store downtown. The branch did not do nearly as well as the Florida branches, and the failed store closed in 1958. The Florida stores were disbanded in 1991, with several being merged with Moss Brothers, which later became Burdeen's, now Macy's. The main building of Boston's Jordan Marsh complex, an ornate brownstone edifice with a landmark corner clock tower designed by Nathaniel J. Bradley in the 1860s, was torn down in 1975 along with its entire row of historic annex buildings. Local architect Leslie Larson founded a coalition called the City Conservation League to try to save the main building, which made way for a low modern brick structure that sits there today as Macy's. Some outraged customers cut up their credit cards in protest of the demolition. These protests and preservationist grassroots efforts led to the creation of the Boston Landmarks Commission. In 1986, the Canadian Campo Corporation acquired Allied Stores Corporation, which was reorganized under the merger agreement. In February 1987, Campo merged DM Reed Company of Bridgeport, Connecticut into Jordan Marsh, and merged Jordan Marsh, Florida with Moss Brothers of Tampa, Florida as the new Moss Brothers / Jordan Marsh, Florida division. In 1988, Campo Corporation acquired Federated Department Stores. To consolidate with Federated, Allied's New York headquarters moved to Cincinnati. Allied Stores, the Bon March, Jordan Marsh, Moss Brothers / Jordan Marsh, Florida and Stearns, operating in tandem with Federated, Bloomingdale's, Abraham and Straus, Lazarus, Riches, Goldsmiths, and Burdeen's. In 1990, saddled by debt resulting from the highly leveraged Campo takeover of Federated, both Federated and Allied filed for bankruptcy. Campo Corporation U.S. Incorporated was renamed Federated Stores Incorporated. The operations of Jordan Marsh, Florida and Moss Brothers were absorbed by Burdeen's in 1991. In 1992, a new public company, Federated Department Stores Incorporated, emerged in February. The former Allied Stores Corporation was merged into Federated. A consolidation of the ANS and Jordan Marsh divisions resulted in the ANS / Jordan Marsh division, headquartered in Brooklyn, New York. In 1994, the ANS / Jordan Marsh division merged with Macy's East, and the ANS stores were renamed Macy's in 1995. In 1996, Jordan Marsh stores in the Northeast U.S., already part of the Macy's East division, were converted to the Macy's nameplate.
The good life, 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 the good
If you have any fond memories, please indicate it at the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like.